Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me on my two websites, catherinecarrigan.com and also unlimitedenergynow.com. Now, our guest today is Rachel Shackleton. Rachel is a naturopath, herbalist, and kinesiologist in Wantage, Oxfordshire. You can find out more about Rachel Shackleton and her wonderful work at greenkeyhealth.co.uk. Welcome, Rachel Shackleton.
Thank you, Catherine. Lovely to be here.
Now, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is how to have more energy. And one of my 9 books is called Unlimited Energy Now. And I wrote this book because the #1 complaint that I hear from all my new clients is they're tired. What is it like for you in Oxfordshire, Rachel?
Yes, I think the present day, present lifestyle, particularly Western, tired, fatigue is a word that is shared very regularly.
Yes. And so my book, Unlimited Energy Now, talks about how to recover from adrenal burnout. But I go into all 5 levels, how to rebuild your energy on the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual, because sometimes people actually don't have adrenal burnout, but they're exhausted on these other levels, spiritually, emotionally, right? Or they've been pushing. They've been using their willpower to try and control everything. So Rachel Shackleton, naturopath, herbalist, and kinesiologist, in your professional opinion, what do we mean by energy?
For me, energy is very much connected to well-being, both physical and mental. And therefore, if you have energy, you have an abundance of health and well-being, and you have joy in your life. Yes, that doesn't mean to say you don't have things that are going left and right that you'd prefer not to be going left and right, but you have the capacity, both mentally and physically, to work with it, work through it, and come back to this position of centered balance.
Yeah, and I am in total alignment with you, because when I do medical intuitive readings, literally the first thing that I look at is a person's what I call chi level. So when I look at your chi level, when I'm doing a medical intuitive reading, I put it, 50 out of 100 would be average for a person your age. So if you're 84, I'm not comparing you to a 22-year-old or vice versa. But by looking at your chi level first, that gives me a tremendous wealth of information about, are you building energy? Are you spending energy? Are you using yourself up? Are you burning yourself out? Or is your level of self-care on all levels, again, physically, energetically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, rather good? So, Rachel Shackleton, what do you feel are the foundations for having abundant energy, both physically and mentally?
I think there are a number of things that we need to look at, and certainly we can't ignore diet. The importance of eating the right foods, eating mindfully, not wishing to overuse that word mindfully, but being present when we eat, and taking time to register on the flavors and the textures, rather than shoveling it in at a desk in front of a computer in a hurry, where we're not actually going to give our digestive system a chance to absorb anything. And if we're lucky, it might give us a small energy boost, but we're going to then, at some point in that afternoon or that day, get a big energy slump. Energy also, for me, is around hydration. We need to be hydrated, and generally people do not drink enough water. When I talk about hydration, I'm talking about hydrating with water, pure and simple. If you want to put a slice of lemon in there, then, add a slice of lemon. But in general, we go to that cup of tea, we go to that fizzy drink, we go to the squash, to the juice, to the everything but water. And really the body needs the water for all its processes, on a cell level, in the blood, in the brain. And the brain is 85% water. So if we've got a foggy brain, we might want to start by looking at hydration. If you've got low energy, we probably have a hydration problem. And the issue is once you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. That's just the body saying, hey, hello, you're not listening, help me here. We also, when looking at energy, we're looking at using natural products, because there's an enormous amount of products out there today that we clean our house with, we kill our weeds with, we spray our food with, we put on our face. Everywhere are all these chemicals which are containing things like phthalates, parabens, formaldehydes, etc. And they all drain energy. Not only do they drain energy, they also create the foundation for sickness. So trying to be as natural as possible in how you clean your home, how you eat, what you eat, etc. is also important. And I think we also have to think about this idea of, well, it's not an idea, it's a present day reality of electromagnetic radiation. And at the moment, I find it quite frightening that people are excited about this 5G, which is going to speed your life up by 3 seconds to download something or whatever it is. But the fundamental impact that is going to have on an immune system, which is absolutely not able to cope with this, is going to be enormous on people's energy.
Right. And I want to jump in there because when I'm doing a medical intuitive reading, one of the things that I can look at is your level of geopathic stress. So what is geopathic stress? Geopathic stress is stress from your environment, and it could be natural, like hurricanes or tornadoes or tsunamis, but very often it's actually what you mentioned, electromagnetic stress or radiation. So cell phones, for example, or microwave ovens or going through the airport are very common. And we have to remember that your whole body is electrical. Your EKG is electrical. That's why you can go to your doctor and get an EKG to measure your heart. Your EEG, your brainwaves are electrical. And so once you understand that your whole body is electrical, then electromagnetic radiation can interfere with this. And when we're talking about energy, we're talking about the flow of energy, a flow of chi through your acupuncture system and your chakras. And this can all be massively disrupted by EMFs, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So, but there are things that you can do if you are very sensitive to EMFs, or if you're spending a lot of time on a computer, on a cell phone, or I have a lot of clients and their body, when they go to work, is literally surrounded on all 4 sides by machines, copy machines, computers, again, cell phones, all kinds of, where your wireless router is a big one, right? And this can all have a big effect. So you were talking about the things that affect us, affect our energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have things like maybe more simple things like a sedentary lifestyle. Sitting at a desk all day long does not build energy. We need to get out and move. Our immune system is run or operated by the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system needs movement to actually work effectively, which means that it clears the toxins from the body and keeps everything healthy in the immune system. And if we're not moving, that system has no pump. So it's not going to work properly. And also moving gives this, it gives it joy. If you can walk outside in a park and enjoy the outdoors for 20 minutes at lunchtime, you're making a big impact on your energy levels.
Right. And I want to share with our audience, there's a real simple way to tell whether your lymphatic system is congested or not. So you lie on your back and with your legs and feet together, and you elevate your legs about 45 degrees. Now, if you were visiting a kinesiologist, such as Rachel Shackleton or myself, Catherine Carrigan, we would actually muscle test, right? And if you can push the person's arms down or push the legs down easily, your lymph system is not moving. So what is your lymph system? Your lymphatic system is twice as large as the circulatory system for your blood. It's part of your immune system, it's part of your digestive system, it's part of your detoxification system. So we already know that being sedentary for sitting, like a lot of us do throughout the day, is as big of a risk factor for your health as smoking, right? So, you need to move. But, while we're talking about the subject of movement, people like Rachel and myself can say to people, oh, get out and exercise. But then there are clients, they're like, I'm too tired to exercise. If you find yourself too tired to exercise, these are forms of movement that I highly recommend that you practice that will actually give you energy. So if you're totally exhausted, please do not join a boot camp or take up marathon running. That will make everything worse. Those are kinds of exercise that use you up. So Qigong, if you go to my website, unlimitedenergynow.com, you can download and watch free videos on Qigong. And it's very common when I have clients who are totally exhausted. I'm like, do 20 minutes of Qigong every day. 5 minutes here, 4 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And it's like giving yourself a little bit of energy boost. So Qigong will give you energy. Tai Chi is amazing, very, very profound. Every time you practice Tai Chi and Qigong, you are balancing your acupuncture system, balancing your energy field, and then certain forms of yoga. Now here in the US, a lot of people, when I say yoga, they think of hot yoga or power yoga. So those are also forms of exercise that can actually deplete you. But if you're doing a structurally alignment-based practice, like something I would teach, or restorative yoga, if you go to unlimitedenergynow.com, you'll see lots of exercises that you can do with bolsters to rebuild your energy. Walking in nature is huge for rebuilding your energy. You're getting the negative ions from the fresh air, you're getting the sunlight, natural forms of vitamin D. So if you are listening because you want more energy, walk, practice Qigong, practice Tai Chi, find yourself a good Tai Chi teacher, say that real fast. Again, get out in nature, right? And practice gentle forms of yoga. Rachel, what do you recommend for your clients as far as exercise when they're really tired?
I think it depends on each client because, as you know, when working with clients, everybody's unique. And some people just have absolutely no appeal to something like yoga, but they're happy to go for a walk in the countryside. What I do try to encourage clients to do is not to, as you mentioned, not to do depleting type of exercise, particularly in the evening after a long day in the office. You need to be starting already your wind down procedure so that you sleep well and you get good quality sleep. And therefore more gentle exercise in the evening is much better, whether that's swimming or walking or a little bit of Tai Chi or just breathing exercises outside are also very powerful. So I try and find the route with each client.
Yes.
I certainly agree with what you said, Catherine.
One of my many certifications is with Dr. Diana Schwartzbein, medical doctor, endocrinologist, and she talks about the hormonal effects of exercise. because a lot of people are gym rats. They love going to the gym. If you love going to the gym, more power to you. However, you really want to understand how your exercise is affecting you. So it's like food. You know, there can be many good forms of food, but not all food is good for everybody, and not all exercise is good for everybody. So here's the important thing to understand about exercise and your energy. Anytime your heart rate goes over 100 beats per minute, your body has to release the stress hormones, cortisol, and adrenaline to keep your heart rate elevated for a continuous basis. So spinning classes, jogging, marathon running, high intensity weight training, where your heart rate is continuously over 100 beats per minute, it actually uses up your hormones. So you may want to have your adrenal functions scientifically tested. You can, again, go to a kinesiologist such as Rachel or myself, or you can do a lab test and find out, where is your adrenal function. And, let me do a quick little comment about that. You have adrenal glands, they're on top of your kidneys, and they release stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. There are 3 stages of adrenal stress. And as you become stressed for a long period of time, you go into what's referred to as adrenal burnout. Your body has trouble producing all your hormones, including your adrenal hormones, and you feel tired all the time. So you really do want to figure out the right exercise for you. So what else do you recommend, Rachel Shackleton, for helping people have abundant energy?
I think an enormous part of abundant energy is around communication and how you communicate. And we all know this saying that, do you see the glass half full or half empty? And really what we're looking to do is to work from the positive. So see the glass as half full. And by doing that, when we communicate from the positive, irrelevant of what's happening around us, we are inviting more positive energy rather than more negative energy, which will pull us down. So communicating positively with other people and yourself, because very often we're very good at criticizing ourselves as, oh, that was stupid, I didn't do good enough, I should have done better. This is useless, other than the fact that it drains your energy. It doesn't help you in any way. If you've made a mistake, I could have done better there. Okay, I've learned my lesson. Next time, I will do better and move on from it, rather than circulating patterns of thought, which then start to drain this energy tank that each of us has.
Yeah, and we know that every thought that you think creates your brain chemistry. So, if one of the things that goes along with being tired all the time is feeling depressed. So you can start rebuilding your energy using positive affirmations, right? And you mentioned breath work. My last book, my 9th book, The Little Book of Breath Work, breathing exercises actually help your energy in several ways. Number 1, they oxygenate your body, so increasing the oxygen. Number 2, when you're breathing in your belly, when you breathe all the way down into your abdomen, you are accessing the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're not just running on your stress hormones. So you balance your nervous system with breathing. And when you combine affirmations with breath work, you shift your mind into this positive state that Rachel is recommending. Okay, so, and again, you can go to a kinesiologist and see how all those negative thoughts that you think literally deplete your energy and shut down your energy system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I totally agree with you, Catherine. And I mean, I would add to that the importance of good sleep. Everybody, again, is individual. However, really, most of us need to have a minimum of 6 hours good quality sleep, to wake in the morning ready for the day, and embracing that day. And most people, I think, require 8 hours sleep, which seems to be the norm. Of course, younger people require more because they're growing, so they're using lots of energy in that process. And this I can't recommend enough. And to get that good quality sleep, try to come into a regime that slowly starts to prepare you to go to bed. Cut out all things like tablets, mobile phones, televisions, all that radiate electromagnetic radiation, so they stimulate your brain. Put them away an hour before bed, and then go do a ritual if you like, have a nice bath with some lavender oil, or rub your feet with lavender oil, or generally create a lovely ritual around the process, which is soft, gentle, and slowly moves you into that state of calm when you get into bed.
Now, Rachel Shackleton, what do you feel are the key aspects of a Western lifestyle that drain our mental, emotional, and physical energy?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think we've talked about that, but I think technology has an enormous role to play here. And technology there's a lot about technology which is very, very positive. For example, what we're doing now, I mean, we couldn't have done this 15 years ago, which is tremendous. But we need to find the rules that we work the technology and not the technology running our lives. And I think in the Western life, we have speeded up the volume of information that we're expected to deal with to such a level that the mind and the body is taking a major hit on energy levels and health levels in general. I think sometimes we don't realize the stress levels that are forming until almost it's too late. When we start to see, repetitive headaches, or even things like sweating, particularly at night, and various other things, constantly getting a cold when it's going round. But certainly, this is one of the key factors.
Yeah, and I want to jump in there, because one of the common recommendations that I give for my clients when I'm doing healing work is to have periods in the day with no input. So what do I mean by that? There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing to fix. You're not learning or working. You literally rest your mind. Now, the gold standard of this is actually meditation, when you have no input. You consciously sit down or lie down, and you don't bring in any extra thoughts. However, it could also show up in other activities, just as puttering. So what do I mean by puttering? Puttering, especially very helpful for women, having unscheduled time in your home where you're just present. You need to enjoy the life that you've created, right? So just having time every day where there's no input. And especially if you have a job where you're having to process a tremendous amount of information, that, like a lot of us do, taking time where there's nothing coming into your mind is incredibly helpful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Learning to switch off. And you only have to sit on a train these days, whether that's a local train or it's a long distance train, it doesn't matter, and everybody is frantically busy, and nobody even looks at the next person or acknowledges the next person's existence. And this is very sad, because connecting to others is also important to the human being, because we survive with connection to other people. This is what we need, and that I think is very sad, that technology has come to such an extent that we don't have that downtime.
Right.
And that's altering.
Another common recommendation for my clients, I talk about what I refer to as spiritual family and spiritual community. So what do I mean by spiritual family and spiritual community? So sometimes you may not have won the lottery when it comes to your parents. You may not have the ideal father or the ideal mother or the ideal parents. However, there's no such thing as a vacuum in the universe. And there may be an older gentleman who is fatherly towards you, or an older woman who's motherly towards you. And we can create this spiritual family in our own minds of having deep, positive win-win connections with people. And we have to remember that they need us as much as we need them. And what do I mean by spiritual community? Spiritual community is like-minded people. So we can find spiritual community for sure in a mosque or a synagogue or a church, but it's bigger than that. You may find spiritual community in your garden club or your football club, right? And spending time around people with common interests, and especially common interests where you're working for the highest good of others, is actually very, very inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Community. I think it's wonderful to hear about these new community things that are being set up between young people of today who, yes, they're not blessed with the best family backgrounds, and the elderly who are in maybe a care home, and these two are coming together, and one is giving the wisdom and the experience, and the other is giving the vitality of youth. And it's spectacular what is happening in these relationships, which really is coming back to who we are. We're tribal.
Absolutely. I remember when I went to school in Dorset, I was set up, my best friend and I, once a week we would go and visit a gentleman who was a shut-in. And we always looked forward to go to see him. And it was very rewarding. And, you know, it goes back to the difference between what I call I thinking, where life is all about me, and then we thinking, which is a little bit bigger, maybe, you know, the people under your roof, and all thinking. And what I find is that when we are taking action for the highest good of all, you'll find that you are driven by a higher purpose, right? And there's really three ways to be happy in life. One is physical pleasure, eating, sex, moving around. Another is soul satisfaction. And what's soul satisfying to me might not be soul satisfying to you. So for me, soul satisfaction, I could get that from walking my dog or sitting by a fire. Somebody else might be, you know, watching football and drinking beer with their buddies. But one of the most important ways to have great energy and to be deeply rewarded is by life meaning. And so when we are taking on projects, whether it's writing a book or creating a radio show for everyone to, you know, get helpful information, you're lifted up by the energy. And I had a very interesting experience in March because I went to a writing retreat. And right before the writing retreat, there was a series of disasters. Somebody smashed my mailbox. Both of my websites crashed. You know, my accountant made a big mistake. There was all these things that happened, and I had to drop everything and deal with them. So when I got to the writing retreat, I was completely exhausted. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But by sitting there and finishing my 9th book, The Little Book of Breathwork, I was completely astounded. By the end of 3 days of nonstop writing, I was just full of energy. And I think it had to do with connecting to a higher purpose.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, as a kinesiologist, you know this as well as I do, that very often when we get people on our couch, they are, I use the word trapped, but nobody's trapped because we make our own choices. in a world or an environment which doesn't bring them joy and happiness, because they're not doing what they came to do in this lifetime. And this means that when they get to your couch or my couch or any other kinesiologist couch, and we start to ask them questions around that idea, which may or may not be as direct as you know, what are you here to do, they then start to think, and it opens another doorway to bringing that release into what they're here to do in this soul, in this body, in this lifetime. And that brings, as you say, it brings endless energy and joy, because at last you feel, whoa, now I'm where I should be, and I can do. And it just exudes natural energy, and the help you get is phenomenal because you're where you need to be.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm always saying that good health and good energy isn't just drinking celery juice and practicing yoga. This isn't.
No.
I mean, I know plenty of people who are doing that and they're absolutely miserable because they haven't connected to this deeper spiritual meaning about why they're here. And this is the kind of energy that really sustains you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rachel Shackleton, you're a naturopath, herbalist, and kinesiologist. Can you explain for our audience what is yin, what is yang energy, and how does this reflect in our personal chi?
All right. So my understanding of yin and yang energy is that we need to have yin and we need to have yang. And one is the female energy and the other is the male energy. And this means that when we're in balance, we have a balance of male and female energy. And if we look at a female, a lady, we always see that there are some masculine energies there, which are very positive, as are the female energies. And it's the same when we're looking at a male person. They also have some of the female energies, which are present and should be present. And when we have this balance of yin and yang, we have abundant chi, so long as we're also not draining that chi with whatever it is, poor lifestyle factors, diet or not drinking or excess alcohol or smoking or excess sex or whatever it might be that's gone in excess that will destroy that balance.
Right. And, you know, one of the, you brought this up because whether we're male or female, we both have yin and yang energy. However, one of the things that I find in the US is that one of the most common causes of adrenal burnout for women is having an excess of yang energy. So if you're constantly producing, achieving, and, you know, doing, if you're being a human doing, that's going to burn you out very, very quickly, especially for women, because we're supposed to have this balance of yin energy. And yin energy is not just feminine, it's also receptive. It's quiet. It's still. So as a woman, if your schedule is packed, you know, every hour except when you're sleeping, you're going to be pretty much guaranteed to go into some form of burnout. It's really just a question of when, right?
Yes, and I think, you know, this feeds well into this idea that you know, women will never be equal to men and men will never be equal to women, because we're never supposed to be. We have characteristics which are softer, more intuitive, gentle, unconditional love, heartfelt emotions, all these things, whereas the man is he's the power. He's in the right sense of the word, he's the strength, he's the money earner, he's the goal achiever, and he's the support. And please understand that in the right way, not in terms necessarily financially. He is He's the rock to lean on. And both bring out the right energies in each other. And you're quite right in what you're saying. Women that are too goal-oriented and driven and never bring time to themselves will ultimately struggle with their health in one way or another, because you're draining the pot.
Absolutely. Now, my book, Unlimited Energy Now, is divided into 5 sections. And I talk about what you can do for the physical body to rebuild your energy. Tai Chi, drinking smoothies, green juices, and so on. I talk about the energy system. Breathing exercises is one of the best ones. And let's talk about the emotional aspects as well, because one of the things that I find is that unresolved emotions will absolutely torpedo a person's energy. So as a kinesiologist and as a long-term healer, master healer yourself, how do you feel that unresolved emotions affect our personal chi?
Unresolved emotions are huge. My personal belief is that behind every dis-ease, there is an emotion. And we know through the different studies, whether we look at Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, that every organ in the body has a relationship to an emotion. So, for example, the lungs are connected to grief and loss. The heart is connected to, I have a broken heart, or I have joy in my heart. The liver to anger, the gallbladder to rage. And therefore, if we have unresolved emotions, in other words, if we are suppressing those emotions over a period of time and through the same repetitive actions that we keep going through, situations that create or make us do that repetitive reaction of suppressing the emotion, we are actually causing dis-ease in the body. And this is when we start to see manifestation of some kind of disease, which has got a label, whatever that is: a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, hypertension, cancer, whatever it is. And for me, dealing with emotions with anybody that is not having abundance of energy is absolutely critical to them to turn the clock, turn the pattern around into a positive pattern, and therefore create health again and energy.
Yeah, now 2 of my 9 books are about how to heal depression naturally without drugs. And one of the things that I talk to my clients about is we can go after the negative emotions and doing your inner work to release the past and let go, which is essential. However, another way of dealing with it, in addition to that, is actually being totally honest with yourself about what you need to be happy. So this may mean looking at your interpersonal relationships. It may be looking at what you're doing for a job. There's plenty of people, they may be earning lots of money. I have a client who earns, $500,000 a year and he isn't happy. And it's like, okay, well, be honest with yourself. And so I'll look at, what are the top 5 things that you need at this time in your life to be happy? And because we all, if you're living, you're aging. So, what you needed to be happy at age 16 might be different from what you need to be happy when you're 40, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're really honest with yourself about what do I need to be happy, then you can go after those things, right? Yeah. And that's going to give you a lot of energy as well. Mm-hmm. On the mental level, one of the things that I talk about in my book, Unlimited Energy Now, is to really look at the stories you're telling yourself. So if you're constantly telling yourself that you're a failure, or that nobody likes you, or that you'll never get ahead, or you'll never earn any money, then you're telling yourself stories that are absolutely torpedoing your energy. So I always recommend that people rewrite their story. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you went through a period of stress. Like, for example, let's say you went through a divorce. Well, you rewrite your story and you write it as positively as you possibly can. Then once you've written this story, and it needs to be 100% accurate, you're not changing any of the facts about what happened, you go back and reread it. And then you notice as you reread it, how do I feel? Where do I start to feel angry or grief or any sort of negative emotion? And you keep rewriting the story, and so that you bring in your wisdom, you bring in your insight, you bring in the purpose, you bring in the lesson. And when you can tell stories about what happened to you in the past, so that all you really reflect on is the wisdom you gained, the strength you acquired, you are actually helping to rewire your nervous system and change your body chemistry. And you can do that also about the story of your life, about what you expect. So a very good friend of mine has a therapy called expectation therapy. So if you expect to be dumped on constantly and blocked at every turn, then that's more than likely what you're going to expect and experience. What do you recommend, Rachel Shackleton, for people to build their mental energy?
I think you've explained that absolutely beautifully. Is mental energy is around being positive, and yes, we all get life's curveballs, but life's curveballs are actually positive. They may not feel positive at the time, but they are an opportunity for learning. Learning means development. Development means moving on and moving forward rather than dancing on the same spot around the same or similar problems, therefore creating this pattern of things that happen to you. As you mentioned, if you expect it, you're more than likely to experience it. So if you can turn these curveballs and the learning from these curveballs into, wow, if I hadn't been through that, I wouldn't have learned that, or I wouldn't be here now, or I wouldn't have met you, or I wouldn't have changed my job, or I wouldn't have played the lottery, or I don't know. I mean, there's 101 and more things that happen to us when we embrace those situations rather than seeing only the negative through it. And that definitely helps the mental stimulation, and it helps the positivity, and therefore it helps the energy flow naturally.
Yes. No, you mentioned, and we're in total agreement, that every organ has emotions associated with it. For our audience, the emotion associated with your adrenal glands is actually your willpower. Now, this is a balance, right? Because you could sit on the couch achieving nothing, eating bonbons all day. That wouldn't be good for you. But you can also overuse your willpower. So what does that look like? Trying to control everything around you, all the energy, all the people. This is exhausting, right? So one way that people misuse their personal energy is by trying to control things they really shouldn't be controlling, whether it's your weather, the weather, your mother-in-law, your children, your spouse. And the opposite of being overly controlling is allowing and trusting that everything works out for everyone's highest good. So what's your comment about willpower and the adrenals and the emotions and using our mind precisely and not overusing our willpower?
You know, Catherine, I think you've touched on an area which I learned the hard way. The other side of me is I'm a business trainer. I'm a leadership communication skills trainer. And I was running a company with 25 employees, which was my own company, in the beautiful Russian Federation. And certain circumstances occurred, and I began to control everything because I was so terrified that we wouldn't come out the other side. And as a result of that, I had complete burnout. Not only did I have complete burnout, my back completely collapsed. And I found myself lying on the floor for 3 months, looking up at the ceiling in deep pain, wondering why. And of course, I began to understand why, because 3 months is a long time to ask that question. And when I came back into the work environment with my team, I began to delegate more out. I began to give more and clearer and precise explanations, expectations, goals, whatever was required to let them go and do and learn also from their own mistakes without doing it on the extreme side that I had to go through. So one of the most difficult things, I believe, is trusting that it will work the way that it is supposed to work. And the natural desire is to make it work the way you want it to work, and not the way that it should flow. And letting things flow, come and go, is much more actually rewarding, but because of the fact that you don't lose all your energy in the process. You've still got abundant energy, and you've got an end result which is probably better and more fantastic than if you've been pushing it and guiding it and controlling it the whole way. So the willpower, learning to channel one's will and allowing it to be flexible and adaptable and flow, is vital to flowing energy. Blocked and forced willpower is blocked and forced energy. Flowing is flowing energy.
Rachel Shackleton, naturopath, herbalist, and kinesiologist of greenkeyhealth.co.uk. Any final thoughts for our audience?
I think this is such a fascinating topic, Catherine, and it's been absolutely a pleasure to talk to you about it. And I would say to everybody, listen to your body, listen to yourself, and take that time to hear what your body's saying to you, because it's telling you before you have burnout, or before you have extreme fatigue, or before severe migraines, or whatever it is, it tells you. Don't wait until it has to do what it did to me. Listen earlier.
This is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. I wrote my book Unlimited Energy Now for people who are really tired, so it's very simply written. And you can, if you're too tired to read it, you can even listen to the audio book and download it for less than $5 from Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, both in the UK and the US. Find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guest today has been Rachel Shackleton, naturopath, herbalist, and kinesiologist from Wantage, Oxfordshire. You can find out more about Rachel Shackleton and her wonderful work at greenkeyhealth.co.uk. And remember, when you listen to your body, you can heed your body's signals and experience fabulous energy. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.